Hello, comrades. Breana here. Welcome to another episode of Signs of Breana. Signs of Breana is a collection of musings, dreams, and dialogues documenting one person's path towards elderhood, liberation, and a life worth dreaming.
Welcome to Breana TV. I'm Breana, and we're here with the lovely Jaiden Love. Jaiden, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Let's see. What do you all want to know about Jaiden Love? I am a Black trans man, trauma-informed um, somatic sex educator and sexological body worker. I've done many things actually in my past. I've owned my own business since 2008 and have done several different things over the years in that business because I am someone who is very passionate about a lot of things. Um, yeah. Uh, what else do you need to know? In my past, well, not even in my past, I'm also a Reiki master teacher. And so energy healing work gets done, woven into everything that I do. Um, I'm also very passionate about this earth and the creatures on it, in particular bees. Yeah, that is a very small snippet of who I am in this moment. And a very spiritual being as well, I will add. That also gets woven into everything, my life.
I think that I met you first at meditation retreat.
Hmm.
That was our first point of contact. And then someone, I don't know who it was like, maybe it was Miles, was like, this human is offering body work, and particularly around, I think that the connection was around top surgery. Since I had top surgery about, 18 months ago. That's a bonkers. That's bonkers. And so I think I originally came to you with for some like chest kind of like integrating, finding connection to this new body that I have. But then I found my way to your website and read all of your offerings. And I think I like picked one of everything. I think I was like, I want everything on the menu.
I
And
remember, can I interrupt you just for a quick second?
oh,
Because
please.
I remember that because I believe you scheduled like one of each right off the bat. And
Yes.
so I remember when I saw that come in, I was like, oh, is this spam? Like, because nobody usually schedules one of each right off the bat without having experienced something first.
I'm a little bit of like a hoe for healing, you know? So um if I like it, I'm like, I need some of that. I think I did it also like every 2 weeks. So I'm sure you're like, this is so annoying. This is spam. Um, but I had never seen the phrase sexological body work before. And I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about what those two words put together mean.
Sure. What's interesting, what I'm noticing is that I don't think I've ever had somebody ask me to explain just that one without the somatic sex educator part as well.
Do you want to start there?
Yeah, why not? Um, so the somatic sex educator is, I mean, there's many things that we can and do, can and will do. But in general, somatic just means, body. Soma is our body. And so we are helping folks to get present in their bodies, um, and we do a lot of things that help to regulate the nervous system. which affects a lot of who we are and what we do. um, and so getting present to all of that and regulating the nervous system helps us to slow down and actually do, whatever healing work that may need to happen with and for you. So then you can therefore experience more, not only more pleasure in your life, but more pleasure in your sex life as well, if that is something that you are seeking. Um, yeah, and all of that work like just happens in a lot of different ways. It's coaching, it's somatic exercises, it's like I said, exercises to regulate your nervous system. Um, anyway, there's lots of ways to do that. Breath work, yeah. So then the sexological bodywork piece of it, um, that can show up in multiple different ways as well. So, for example, with you and I, it was doing scar remediation work. Um, and people probably don't think of that as sexological body work because also, your average everyday LMT does scar work as well. Um, we, as most of us anyway, as sexological body workers, we just pay more attention. Actually, let me not make that a general statement. Let me speak just about myself, that I pay more attention intuitively to what your body is saying to me and what your
Mm,
body needs. And
mm,
so it's not just, I don't just dive in and start massaging where you have scar tissue. Um, yeah, I'm listening with a capital L, as I like to call it. Um, yeah, because you can do too much, in my opinion. Too much too fast, which is part of a definition of trauma. Um, and I am here to help you decrease trauma in your body and in your system, not add more to it. So, yeah, so it's a slow process. So anyway, that's what started with you. Other things that are part of the sexological bodywork piece is this work that I'm doing with people. It's very intimate work, right? And um, you don't know, even with scar work, you don't know what is being stored energetically or emotionally in your scars, for example. And so you don't know what could potentially get released or come up. Um, and so that takes us deeper into, some deeper healing work potentially for folks, right? And that doesn't happen for everyone. I'm not bringing that up to scare people. I'm just saying that that is a fact. That is something that can happen. Um, so other things, the sexological bodywork piece is some people come to me for, for as part of their sexual healing journey. Some people come for, intimacy stuff that they have going on whenever they're with another being, right? Um, there's lots of reasons that people come. Some people come like for um, they have scar, need scar tissue work, whether it's within or around the vagina, or even circumcision can cause issues and cause desensitization around the penis. Um, there's actually I don't like to call it illness because I don't like that term. But there's other things that can be going on with the genitals that cause scar tissues.
mm,
Um, yeah, and pain. Some people
mm,
have pain around their genitals and don't know why. Anyway, so there's lots of reasons that people come, right? And um, so the sexological bodywork comes in to where I will specifically be starting to work with the tissues of your body.
mm,
Um, and it might be specifically to help heal stuff around scars, right? It might be stuff to help around intimacy. It might be, um, some people might come to me for masturbation coaching. I mean, there's so many possibilities, and I can do sensual massage with you. There's lots of bodywork pieces that I can do with you that your everyday LMT, licensed massage therapist, does not do with you. They are taught to avoid certain erogenous zones of your body, right? Whereas my training taught me, and I also believe that I understand why LMTs avoid those areas because that's not their work. For me, I'm trying to address and help you address stuff that might be around sex and intimacy and all of that. And so I want to help you get present to what brings you pleasure, right? And so I'm not going to avoid those parts of your body. Avoiding those parts of your body to me is telling your body um, those parts aren't important or your
Mm.
pleasure isn't important, right? I don't want any part of your body to feel that way because it's all important. We are conditioned in this world. Well, I'll speak to this country because I don't know the whole world, obviously, but we are so conditioned that sex is naughty and dirty, and I'm using air quotes. And all of these things, right? And you're not supposed to talk about it, and all of these things. Yeah, and it's not. It's supposed to be pleasurable and fun, and yeah. Anyway, I'll stop there. I feel like I've been talking on.
No, it's perfect. And thank you for, I thought I knew what LMT stood for, but I appreciate you breaking it down for me. Um, my brain goes like, you know when like all the thought bubbles have thought bubbles, and you're just surrounded by these thought bubbles.
Yeah,
Um,
and which one do I go to next? Yeah.
I know. I think my mind goes to this question. I found myself at like a gathering, and this number of humans, we all kind of like were talking about trauma. Like it all like the waters all converged there, sort of. And afterwards, I sort of felt myself zoom out, and I was like, I am a human who is a hoe for healing. You know, I love to spend my money on body work. I love to like integrate and think deeply, you know, heal, allow things space to recover. But after this moment, I was like, oh, it was sunset, it was beautiful, we were safe, surrounded by humans, and the point of connection was like talking about, I mean, not talking about the nitty-gritty of what had hurt us, but kind of the omnipresent trauma where it's like we're all kind of like doing something to get free, um rather than making new memories in the freedom.
Mm,
And I guess my question to you is about balance. You know, like I heard you say earlier, like I'm trauma informed. And I feel like there's something about having the information and creating circumstances and situations for play and for pleasure versus like kind of making sometimes care work or body work or healing work is about like kind of parsing your way through challenging things that have happened, trauma. And I imagine that sometimes that shit could just come up because yeah, it's in the tissues. We have experienced
mhm.
it. But I'm wondering if you have anything to share about like the balance between like recovery and pleasure, um, as a practitioner, as a human that like cares deeply for others, or in your own Jaiden work. Um, yeah, it's my diatribe.
Oh, let's see. What's my feeling around balance with this? You broke up a little bit for just there near the end. Um,
Mm.
but I think I get the gist of what you're curiosity is around. And it's a great question. I haven't had anyone ask me this question like this before, and so I'm pausing a little bit just to check in and see what might be coming up for me around it. Um, it's really like what's coming up for me initially is it really is a balance because there's this, I don't even know what word I want to use here, but there's this dynamic of like a little bit of push, right? Like,
Mhm.
gosh, I'm not sure how to say this. So it's like there's this little bit of like knowing how much to push someone, right? To help them um explore and discover new things and new pieces about themselves and their body, maybe, right?
Mm.
But at the same time, really staying present and aware and holding all the things because like I said, I am not here to cause any trauma. You've already experienced so much trauma in life and your
Mm.
body has experienced trauma in your nervous system and I want to help heal some of that, right? Help you feel safe enough to um yeah, to address and heal some of that if
Mhm.
possible. Um So yeah, so that's the balance, and there's titration that happens for sure. I am not perfect. I am a human still. Um, so there can be some titration with that, right? Trying something and then feeling like, oh, that's a little too much for them right now, and you back off a little bit. And so yeah, there's a um definitely, I was gonna say a little game. That might not be the right word. It probably isn't. But
Mhm.
this space of um, being with what's occurring and what's coming up, and then we've both got to just work
Dan-
together. Yeah,
Yeah.
dance. I love that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's makes me think about what you were sharing around like capital L listening. And I think that's one thing that has been curious for me from the sessions that we've done together is like in the body that I'm in, and also how I've been socialized and how I've been raised. Like, one of the things that we have practiced in our session is like, what do I want? What does Brianna want? What feels good? And like listening to myself and I what is this thing to share there? I don't know. I think I am a human that's very connected to my body through like being a dancer and also just like being in recovery for a long time and like building the practice and the muscles. And also, I grew up in a generation that was very like, you know, before Me Too, before like conversations about consent, like that's not what sex education was when I was like coming through school. I was growing up in the Bay Area. I went to high school in Oakland. And so, like, at the time that we were talking about sex education, a lot of it was like in the aftermath of, you know, so many humans passing or living with like HIV and AIDS. And so there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of like, we were
Mhm.
not talking about consent. We were not talking about like what feels good or pleasure, but just like use condoms, teen pregnancy, and like get tested, but not even like a comprehensive getting tested, but get tested for HIV.
Right.
Um, and I think that I got a stronger and more robust sex education and like had educators around me who were queer than other people of my generation. But all to say, it is like in deep adulthood that I even had, like, what is this word consent? And not
Mhm.
just like consent with other folks, but like consent with yourself. And I
Mhm.
think that to like really extrapolate out how, like, in this contemporary moment where there's like big, major global conversations about like rebellion and dissent, I think so much about like, do my comrades, my neighbors, the people around me, do they have a practice of telling themselves no? Do they have a practice of listening to their own no? Like, how can you possibly speak truth to power if you don't listen deeply to yourself? You know, it's like, um, it is both so simple and also deeply complex. And there are some ways where I feel like I was trained out of it. You know, I was kind of trained the opposite. Like, don't be an angry black woman, don't raise your voice, don't be too loud, like
Yep.
in a social way. And then also, you know, boys will be boys, and like you don't want to give anybody blue balls. And like, you know, I was very like a girl who was hooking up with boy, you know, and it there was this like very socialized, gendered understanding of like sex that had nothing to do with pleasure.
Right.
And so
Well,
it's like
not everyone's pleasure anyway.
facts, facts. There's this it's like a rewind and a retelling and a rewriting that I really appreciate about your practice. And like I'm wondering, I'm thinking about that sheet that you gave me. It's probably, you know, 3 feet from where I am, but I have no idea in what direction. Um,
The spectrum of consent sheet.
I would love for you to talk to me about that. And I would also love for you to talk to me about the 3 minute game
So
and talk about whatever you want.
I will say, we'll see how I feel in a minute, but right now in this moment, I'm like, I don't want to give too much away because one of the things that I am starting to offer is I am going to be doing consent workshops for the community.
Mm,
Um, yeah, and so and those things that you are speaking about, and anybody that works with me, it is the foundation of the work that we do together. Right away in the beginning, um, as you may remember, we have a whole session on consent and going over all of these things. And the reason why I do that, which by the way, let me just say really briefly, it starts with learning, as you know, your authentic yes and no
yes.
in your own body, because that's where consent and boundaries need to come from. If
Mm,
you are trying to give consent and or set a boundary or limitation with someone, and it's not coming from, or you don't know what your authentic yes and no feels like in your body, then it's just coming from where your nervous system is in that moment. And so
mm,
you could say yes to something and then feel like shit or resent or whatever, right, later on, that you did the thing. And so that's the very first thing in the consent session that we do is getting present to learning how your body tells you, like when it's a full hell yes or hell no. Um, Very important to me. And yes, consent was not a thing when we were younger. Um, so another quick side note is that at some point, probably in not too distant future, I also want to do workshops for teenagers. I cannot imagine how differently our lives would be if we would have known how to distinguish our authentic yes and no and or consent and boundaries as a teenager, our lives will be very different today, I think. Anyway, so yes, there is the authentic yes and no that you would learn, and then there is the spectrum of consent, which is everybody thinks that in the spectrum of response, by the way, was another sheet that I gave you. Spectrum of response is that everybody thinks there's just yes and no, and there's not. There's lots of different things you can say on that spectrum. It could be a yes but, it could be a yes and, it could be a maybe, a no but. Anyway, there's lots of things in there, right? And that's all part of where the negotiation comes in. So
Mm.
it might be something like, or look something like somebody asking, "Ooh, can I dance with you?" And, I might be like, "Yes, but there will be no touching," right?
Mm.
Or something like that. Anyway, so there's that. And then the spectrum of consent is like most of us, if not all, have experienced enduring. So the spectrum of consent consists of enduring, tolerating, being willing to do something, and then actually wanting something.
Mm.
And so I help folks to, which by the way, that spectrum of consent comes from, I want to give credit to Kai Cheng Tom, a beautiful being on this planet, who has also written some beautiful books. Anyway, so it helps people. Yeah, there's a spectrum of consent, right? We don't want anyone enduring or even tolerating. Sometimes we tolerate, to do something for a minute, but I am all about like helping people get to that other end because we do a lot of enduring and tolerating in our lives and don't realize it. Um, 3 Minute Game, who is most well known for the 3 Minute Game, is Betty Martin and the Wheel of Consent. Yeah, which I'm not going to go into that whole thing. That's a training in and of itself, believe it or not, a few day training to learn. But you mentioned and asked about, me saying a little bit about the 3 Minute Game, and the 3 Minute Game is just a practice that I do with folks, and you can do with each other. It doesn't have to be with me. Um, it's a time to practice consent and negotiating, that spectrum of response. It's a beautiful, beautiful game. It is, and what's the other word I wanted to say for it? It's powerful for some
Mm.
people because some people don't realize. I've had clients that literally like, oh my gosh, like they're almost brought to tears because they're like, it's so simple, but yet profound that I can say what my need and want and desire is, and somebody actually just listens. Um, and it's sad, but it's true that that's that happens to a lot of us in our lives where we don't realize that it can be that simple, and that somebody can just listen and do what we are asking.
I cried when we did the 3 minute game. And curious enough to me, it wasn't like being listened to or having it wasn't that. It was the moment of being in receipt, like receiving what I don't want to give too much away, but like how do I express this without giving too much away? Yeah, just receiving the attention, I think, was what really brought me to tears and like just being present with that and um
May I
yeah.
may I add a little something, curiosity?
Mhm.
Does it have to do with what you were just trying to express? Does it have to do with like not only receiving what you wanted, right? And someone being present, but it actually being for you. And I have no other agenda than
Mm.
to give you pleasure or whatever it was, right? For those 3 minutes. Is there a
Mm.
little bit of that in there? Because usually, right, when we're being intimate with somebody else or having sex with somebody else, it's a give and take, obviously, right? Like, so usually, like, yeah, this person wants this thing done to them, but it's also, I'm gonna do it because it's gonna bring me pleasure as well, right? There's a lot of that happens. Whereas in the 3 minute game, there's a period of time where it's just for you.
Mm. I could share the example, but I want your consent so I can share the example.
Thank you for that, and I'm totally fine with you sharing. Yes.
In the example that brought me to tears was it was your desire to trace my tattoos.
Mhm.
And I both watched you trace them, but also just felt the tracing on my body. And I think it was like the curiosity that brought me to tears. And also, I have a complicated relationship with the tattoos on my body. I love them, but they are complicated for me. And I remember you saying to me, like, that you had the urge to ask me questions or like um ask for stories, but we did this moment in silence, these 3 minutes in silence, and I had the urge to tell stories, but then I just like returned back to the sensation of like watching and feeling you like kind of, yeah, like getting to know this map that lives in my skin. And it reminds me of what you were sharing about like the tissues and like what lives in the tissues and like just that simple, like I could almost like cry talking about it, like that, so simple of just like you bringing mindfulness and like touch to them allowed a little bit of that complicatedness to soften just like 1%. And then I could just like cry about it. Um yeah, and I think another thing that sort of like comes to mind about getting to work with you and like what sticks out to me is like most of the, I don't know exactly how many sessions we've had, but a handful of sessions. And at the beginning of every session, I got to talk about some shit for a while. And usually you're like, do you want to pull a card? And then I like pull a card and you'll like tell me about what the card's meaning is. And like maybe we need to pull two cards that time. Maybe it's three times that we need one from each deck, you know? Um, and I think in the past I've felt shame or shyness, like shyness at minimum and like maybe shame at maximum about like, oh, I'm a person that finds my way into like the erotic, into the senses. But first I gotta yap. I gotta run my mouth, you know, and I need to be listened to and affirmed, and I need to hear what you gotta say, and we're gonna have a little story time moment, and then you can touch my body. And I've been in like romantic and erotic circumstances in the past where that's really not been very welcome, you know? Like, I need to clear the cache. I need to clear all the cookies before you can like touch the cookies, you know? And I think that in the practice of doing sexological body work and also like, yeah, somatic sex education, it's like, oh, this is what it's like for me to, this is what's natural for me. Like, why do I have to sort of, why would I want to war against the natural way that I kind of like find my, I soften with myself.
Mhm.
And I think being able to practice it with another person and allow the stakes to sort of be different. Um, yeah, has been a lovely way to sort of self-accept and self-define, like, and just know that, on my little dating profiles, it's like, I need connection before I get my dick out. Like, we're not do yap at me, you know?
Yep.
And in my practice, like as like doing the healing work that I do, I talk to folks a lot about resources. I talk to them about money and labor and time. And I do that in part inspired by, like, I'll never forget, I listened to Adrienne Murray Brown talk about a living death. And they were in particular talking about Black femmes working so hard that there's like little luster or pleasure to life. And I feel like my work is supporting folks so that they're like their labor, their gigs, their work, whatever that is, can be accessible for them in the life that they want to live. So it can be in greater alignment with pleasure. Um, and that is challenging if you don't have a lot of examples of pleasure and senses and like sweetness in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know what my question is, but I do have a curiosity around like Blackness and pleasure and like conditioning and like I think about pleasure as a birthright, but I also don't think that that is what we're conditioned to believe. Not a question, but a bunch of quandaries. Now, Jaiden, what does Jaiden have to say?
Um, yeah, what is my feelings about all that you just shared? First of all, I agree with you. Like, pleasure is a birthright, period. 100% believe that. And yeah, that's not what we're taught. It's whether you're Black or otherwise, in my opinion, but especially Black bodies, it's not what we're taught.
X.
Um, we're very conditioned otherwise. Uh,
Mhm.
That's sad to me. It's very sad to me, which is one of the reasons why I love this work so much. I have had lots of people in my past, like, whether it was friends or partners or lovers, and I would give massages or whatever, and they're like, you need to do this for a living because they loved my hands and my massages. And I could not imagine massaging people all day long, right? And now with the work I'm doing, my goodness, I love it. But it's not just because I get to be a part of giving someone pleasure. There's a piece for me, a part of why I'm on this planet is um, I'm here to love people and to show people they deserve love. And there's also a big piece or part of me that is here to whether it's to hold the space or guide you or whatever word you want to put in there so that healing work can be done.
Mm.
Um, because in my opinion, this healing work that people like you and I do, um, it gets us closer or on our way to our path of liberation, ultimately, is my belief. Um, yeah. So now, yeah, I absolutely love that. I absolutely love doing what I'm doing.
And you're good at it,
Thank you.
incredibly good at it. Um, I'm wondering, is there anything else you would like to share about your practice before we let people know how they can find you?
Sure. One thing that I just realized that I forgot to say in the beginning is that, and maybe I've alluded to it enough, but let me say specifically that, my work is very client-centered. It is, what else do I want to say about that? It is all about the client. And I'll say this, I'll throw this out there. There are folks in the world that see or might see what I and others like me do as a part of sex work. You get to have your opinion, and that's fine. And um, one of the reasons why I say that it's not really exactly that is because it's one-way touch. It's all consent based, it's all client centered. In fact, for example, if I say I feel like this is the direction we need to head next, or this is the activity or what have you that we could do next, you can say, nope, I don't want to do that. Great. And we'll do a different direction, or we'll talk about, what other possibilities are. It's very, very, very client centered, and trauma informed. Is there anything else I want to say about that? I don't know. Anything you feel like that's important that I'm forgetting to say about around that you've experienced?
That I have experienced. I guess I would say that it has been really lovely to be a client and to find myself on your table and to have conversations about like pleasure and consent and the body and how the body changes over time. Whether that be with like age or trauma. And I think there like this sort of care like folks are deserving of. I feel really grateful that I've had the ability to access it. And yeah, I don't know. Shout out to all of the healers, whether it's like sexological body workers, sex workers, massage therapists, like all of the
Yes.
humans who are open to connecting to the soma, because it's hard labor. And yeah, it just makes me think about like all of the protection spells and clearing work you must have to do to like sit with folks while they like look at themselves deeply. And it is not simple to do. I'm also going to sneeze. Um,
Bless you.
Thank you. Um, where can people find you? Where can people read your words? And do you have any offerings that are coming up that you would like folks to know about?
Yes, yes, and yes. um, let's see. I'm pausing because there's something else that I wanted to throw out there. So my website is heldandheard.com. And the thing that I'll throw in there at this moment is that my website I am about to do some updates because there's some things coming up, whether it's with clients and or friends in the community where I live. Something as one example that's been coming up recently with a lot of folks is harm that's being done around consent/non-consent, and specifically in the kink community. So
Mm.
I'm feeling very passionate about Of course, these consent type workshops in the kink community. But also, I wanted to say, and this is something else I will add more specifically on my website that's not there yet, is that I realized I have a big passion for working with folks that are curious around some things for themselves in their life, whether that be around gender identity stuff or surgeries, right? Any kind of gender affirming surgeries, but also people that have curiosity around kink in their life, or maybe they've even been doing kink for a while, but something maybe they've realized that they've received harm or trauma from their dom and don't know how to handle it or deal with it or what have you. Just there's lots of topics around all of that stuff that I am feeling very passionate about. And again, I think it's because kink can be so powerful in helping to heal and experience pleasure. And when people aren't listening to each other, um, it can cause harm, right? Um, and so I, yeah, I would love to decrease the harm that I'm witnessing and hearing about. Um, so yes, heldandheard.com is my website. I'm not super active, but I do have a Substack. Same with the only social media that I'm really on is Instagram. And although I say I'm on there, like I don't really post much on there either. But yeah, and then through my website, like even if you have some curiosity, like you're like, oh, that sounds interesting, but I'm not sure if this work is right for me or not. I offer a free 20-minute consult, and you can, go to my calendar through my website and book a consult with me and ask me whatever you want to ask me. Um, yeah, I think that's good for now.
Really. Jaiden, it's so sweet to talk to you, and I'm so grateful that I've gotten to benefit from your practice and your care. And yeah, folks can shout out to your website to be able to connect more deeply and to get on your table. Thank you for talking to me today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
Fucking same. Mm.
The music at the beginning and end of this episode is from Kafari. Thank you to my guides and ancestors for supporting me in my storytelling. And thank you for listening to another episode of Signs of Breana.